MP, for which the governments, state and central government, whatever the efforts to be taken to establish house level libraries, for which how much of efforts to be given by the government has been discussed. Now this seminar is to be discussed. Library policy, federalism and the states. The distinguished speaker through V Sashi Kumar will deliver the lecture.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I think it's thank you very much, very respected chair, very respected colleague on the panel, and domain experts in the realm of library science who are gathered here from different parts of the country under this very worthwhile initiative by our Member of Parliament, Mr. Shivdas. It's a pleasure to be speaking to the issue of the need for federalism and policy initiatives that are in keeping with the requirements of the times for the library movement, or the library, or what we call librarianship. The thrust of my argument is that the problem with librarianship or library science, or the practice of library, both by users and by those who are running the library, the science of library science, is that while it is squarely a subject in the state list in the Constitution, in actual practice it has tended to be more centripetal than centrifugal. It's tended to be more centralizing in its thrust. Of course, there are counter movements now, but I think in this conference and through this conference, we should emphasize the need for greater devolution, for greater democratization, for more inclusivity, for greater participation in the library. The library is a place which not just makes for intellectual growth, which forges ideas, and through those ideas movements. It is well known that Karl Marx spent a good portion of his time in England in the reading room of the British Museum, which subsequently became the British Library, and it is there that seminal ideas of revolution, of people's struggle against the domination, against colonialism, against imperialism, against injustice, against gender divide, all that we hold important in our polity, in our lives, in society, were forged. So the library plays a very, very formative role in the development not just of individuals, not just in terms of individual intellectualism, but also in terms of societies and the way societies are forged and new ideologies are unleashed. Ideologies of equality, of justice, of fraternity. And therefore, if you look at the evolution of libraryship in our own country, it's only in the medieval period that the idea of a library actually begins to take shape across the world. And in India, of course, it was during the colonial period that the idea of the library takes place. You look at it from 1813, Lord Minto and so on, were the first people to point out the need for greater emphasis on having libraries in the educational system. There were other governors general who followed suit. And there were some milestones, I'm not going into the history of library science in India. Some of you, and particularly my colleague here, is far well versed in terms of the scholarship of that. But you will find that library science has accrued as a centralizing scheme. Take, for instance, the very big milestone initiated by the UGC, no doubt, for what is called the InfoLibNet, the InfoLibNet scheme. It's meant to be an equalizing effort, a cooperative effort, an inclusive effort. But in actual practice, what happens is there's great unevenness in its application. There's a sense of hierarchy that sets in. There are those who are privileged, those who are marginalized. And this is, I think, the problem with the way it's played out, the whole process of the act of library, or the functioning of libraries, and the role library plays organically in a society is played out. The famous political philosopher Julian Habermas created, or shall we say, spoke about, theoretized the idea of the public sphere. Of course, the public sphere had come into being even in the 17th century, as we know. And it is through that the idea of media, of reading, of all of those emerged. Because during the Industrial Revolution, because of the Gutenberg press, the Caxton press, and printing, and people learning things on their own. But the library movement, in this context of UGC's initiative, is created an uneven kind of situation. And today you find more often people speaking in terms of the need for library science and function of library and library policy to belong to the concurrent list rather than the state list. This is a dangerous discussion, because where the library becomes relevant to the individual, to the last mile, to the person in the last mile in society, is when it is at the local level. Let me give you a personal example of how I discovered this in the context of, say, Kerala. Of course, we are sitting in Tamil Nadu, which is what initiated big radical changes in terms of the library movement. There is the iconic figure of S.R. Ranganathan, who is the father of library science, as all of you know. And he was the one who advocated tirelessly for legislation in the field of library science in state after state after state. So that today, I think, if my statistics is right, 20 states in the Indian Union and one union territory have passed legislation which are enabling in terms of library movement and setting up library policy and so on. But even so, where it really becomes relevant is, as I said, in Habermas's concept of the public sphere. There is something called the system and there is something called the life world. The system is the state, the political economy of how the system works. The life world is what relates to the people, culture, the interaction, the scholarship, the public sphere, the discussion and the democratization that comes with the discussion. Arthur Miller famously said, for instance, that all reading and all media, for instance, is a nation talking to itself. And it's a library that this idea, the idea of what can be transformative in terms of making a difference to our lives. What are the measures needed to be initiated? What are the measures with which the people should pressurize the government or those in power to initiate policies that benefit the least common denominator, the poorest man, most marginalized man? All these measures come because of the reading and because of the knowledge that you gain through libraries. After all, we are in a situation today where through what we call knowledge, we have lost wisdom, and through wisdom and we acquired knowledge, we have lost, when we gain information, we have lost knowledge. We have knowledge without wisdom and information without knowledge. But libraries are where knowledge resides, where knowledge should be protected. But we are in a society, the post-industrial society, what we call the information and communication revolution society, where knowledge is the central pillar knowledge determines power.
மேலே
Knowledge
book
pivots society in the direction in which it should go.
இல்ல அங்க
And
செட்
there,
பண்ணிட்டு மேலே
the
போயிட்டு
library becomes so very
அந்த
central
ஜூம்
to our
இருக்கு
lives.
ஜூம் இருக்கு
So library should not be seen as, I was so heartened when I came into this library to see the number of people who are in this wonderful
ஒண்ணு இங்க மாதிரி
structure,
போகணும்.
Anna Central Library.
ஒரு
There was a
mic
move in the state to convert this from a library into something
Okay,
else.
ISO
I won't go into that because they're politics. But imagine how you can do anything
Wait,
like
go
that.
pizza.
This beautiful structure, which is a space of knowledge, a space of empowering yourself, of widening your mental horizons, of getting to know what is true, what is wrong, or know the nuances in between, of transforming yourself into a better and more powerful and enabled individual.
கெயின் இருக்கு எல்லி
Recently, as I was saying, I had a direct, shall we say, encounter, engagement with this process of how the library movement can be very effective. In 2025, between October 2nd and November 16th,
நீங்கனா
an organization of which I was the founder chairman person held what are called public rallies, so public meetings in all the 14 districts of Kerala. All the 14 districts of Kerala to remember, to commemorate and to condemn, of course, the killings in Gaza of the children of Gaza, just the children of Gaza. As you know, for 2 years, between 2023 and 2025, over 80,000 people, men, women and children in Israeli bombardments, of which more than 20,000 are children, young children, from newborns to up to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 10 years old. Children, boys and girls, killed for no fault of theirs. So we said we can't let this pass without some commemoration, without some protest, some symbolic probably because we are far away from the scene. And so we wanted to organize this movement. Some of us who gather under this umbrella of this movement called the Chinta Devi Foundation discussed this and initiated this. And what we found is we moved from district to district to district. It's not easy because there are no cards. It's not a party-based organization. It's just civil society trying to organize to protest the unconscionable killing of children, women, particularly children in Gaza. So we created a scheme called Names of Gaza. What we did is, in each of these districts, 14 districts, we would gather, public would gather from the lowest person to it may be an auto rickshaw driver, it may be someone who is a sewage cleaner, it may be someone who is a member of parliament, it may be someone who is a literator, it may be a housewife, it may be an auto rickshaw driver, a mix of society, cross-section of local society would gather and recite the names of all the children killed. 1,500 names were recited in each district. Through that we covered all the 20,000 names in the 14 districts in this period of October 2nd to November 16th. But the important point is, this could not have happened but for a local resource, for a local point which would help us to mobilize this. And that was local library movement in Kerala. These libraries are not just passive institutions, not just passive spaces where people come and learn. Because when you learn, when you understand, when you learn what's happening around you, you see the injustices, you know more about the injustices, you then have a forum where you can discuss what can you do about it. So libraries are therefore crucibles which can become the beginning of dynamic action which can have a transformative impact on society. So these are the ways in which the library movement can be a very, very important adjunct, shall we say, of democracy. And what we have to resist, particularly in today's climate in India, is where we have an aggrandizing center where even roles which are the remit of the states are being appropriated by a very, very aggrandizing and, shall we say, central government using what we call the tyranny of a majority, which is itself gained through unethical mobilization of religious sentiment, of least common denominator religious sentiment. We have to resist any encroachment on this sacred space, sacred in the intellectual sense, not in the religious sense, not in the spiritual sense. This sacred space of the library, which is where our future generation will be formed, will be forged. This is particularly so because the other big threat we face today is technological. Of course, the book, the library is a place where you get the smell of books. You feel newsprint, you feel, the touch and feel and smell of books. For people in my generation, that is itself a very romantic idea. It's a wonderful idea. But for the new generations, I understand that the new generation has gone digital. They are more digital savvy. They have smartphones. They get all their information on their mobile phones. Their mobile phone is like a prosthetic extension of their arms, literally. They're digital natives. But the problem recently, just yesterday I was reading that in Sweden, which first experimented with digitization in the education on a massive scale, so that they were using screens for learning, screen maybe of the mobile phone, maybe of a television screen or of a screen in the classroom. They are going back to the printed word. They're going back to the textbooks. The 100 million euro project, which has been initiated in Sweden as an experiment in order to bring students, children in schools back to the reading habit. Reading habit, not in terms, children read. It's not that they don't read, they read on the mobile phones. But the attention spans are dwindling. They're impatient with anything which is more than 2 or 3 minutes to read, or 5 minutes to read. I've seen that happening with my children, with my grandchildren. So it's not surprising, it's across the world. So the digitization has a big problem, and we have to, but we cannot wish away digitization. It is technology, we cannot be anti-technology. We have to see how digitization can enable a greater scientific, more dynamic, more organic, more transformative movement in the realm of library science. And there where we have to watch out is the digital capitalists who have unfortunately cornered this space. And big problem there is what you call algorithms and digital media. Digitization's biggest danger and the most invisible danger is the way algorithms operate. Algorithms operate in a sense, if I go to a library, I have a choice. I can go to the section on science or history or philosophy or mathematics and choose what I want. I can browse through a book and I can decide I don't want this, I can look at something else. I can do that. The problem with algorithms is they are determining what you want. They are not just giving you what you want. It's not a demand and supply. They are determining your appetite of what you want. And therefore, you are often unknown to yourself begin to read or pursue or understand things that the algorithms determine you want, because those are finally what the big consumer products, the big, shall we say, digital capitalists want you to know more about. Because ultimately it's about monetizing all of this and creating greater power, accumulation of capital for the digital capitalists. So these are problems, big threats and big dangers in the realm of but libraries are the crucible, as I said. And when I read this, what is happening in Sweden, they have realized the danger and they've gone back. I'm not therefore saying we should all go back to reading books, not use mobile phones or smartphones. That's not what I'm saying for the moment. We need this technology, but we must be aware of how the technology can be useful, how it can make us a victim of it. We should be masters of the technology. It's like AI. We should be master of artificial intelligence, not a slave of artificial intelligence. AI cannot determine what I will think or do or see or reason or understand. AI must do and reason and understand as I want it to, in realms that I want it to. So this is, I think, very, very applicable to the realm of knowledge, particularly in the realm of library science. With these observations, I'll stop here, and I thank you as well as the chair for giving me this opportunity to present my views on the subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. அருமையாக the need of the library. The need of the library is compared with the federal system. In federal system, how the central government behave with the state governments, what to do, what to do not do by the central government, detailedly given in this lecture. Especially in Tamil Nadu is the Kerala is the 100% literature state. Next to Kerala is the Tamil Nadu is the literary is higher than the other states. In the 1950s, steady movement. The days there is no much of literacy, knowing the national news and the country news, most of the tea shops has been center point for the reading places. Especially in Dravidian movement, Iravu Padasale, the night study centers done by the Dravidian movement, for which giving literacy and taking classes for students, it has been done by the DMK region. After Dravidian movement, under the leadership of Dr. Kalangya, he has created libraries in all panchayat levels, taluk levels, district levels. Then the library which we are sitting and discussing, the library has been brought under this regime. Very big library. This is one of the biggest library in the Asia level. Therefore, it was former American First Lady Mrs. Clinton also visited here. She was surprised this library because this is a very big library on all section of the age group for getting knowledge from this library. Likewise, now the present Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu through MK Stalin, Dravidian model leader, has constructed one more library like this library in Madurai also. Now, two libraries, one in Coimbatore, another one in Trichy is under construction. That also will be dedicated to the public. Because why I am telling this? Because this government has given more importance for awareness, literacy and knowledge. Therefore, we are giving more opportunity. In Kalangya regime, he has created Tiruvallur, in the name of Tiruvallur, he had created library in village level. Therefore, separate library section has been LLA building in Annasari. Therefore, this government has done lot of initiatives for reading habit, for creating libraries and for infrastructure facilities also. Therefore, Tamil Nadu is one of the pioneer states in this country, is giving more importance for library purposes, library sciences as well as the reading capacity to developing in the public. And another one topic, that is federalism. The federalism is the most discussed subject today itself. Because the federal system, whether it is in the position of the discussion, our founder leader of DMK, President Anna, told the union of states, union like a onion, he told. Union like a onion, you feel each and every leaf of the onion, finally nothing you find. Because there is no states, no central government. Therefore, this is called as the union of states. Another speaker going to speak on that topic, Mr. Distinguished Speaker, Mr. Dr. V Chandrakumar will address on both topics. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Most respected Chair, Mr. Girirajan MP, and my fellow panelist, Sashi Kumar, Chairman, Asian College of Journalism, delegates, friends. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer to give me an opportunity to one of the panelists, the theme, library policy, federalism and states. As far as myself is concerned, I have little deviate from the topic. I'm going to focus on library policies, governance, and advocacy. Because the prime aim of Indian Library Congress, the fourth edition is being organized at the Anna Central Library in Tamil Nadu, focusing on propagating or take forward the movement of public library in the nationwide. If you want to propagate or to take lead to the as a movement in the country, we need to have a strong advocacy, a definite policy, good governance, and appropriate advocacies necessary for sustainable public library development movement. If you take the public library systems, we would classify into various types, academic and special and the public libraries. As far as the academic libraries are concerned, we have a definite policies framed by government and government agencies like UGC, ECT, MCI, Central Council of India, like that. When you come to public library policies, that would be possible only a good governance framed by the legal framework. The legislation only we can able to form a policy that could be a definite policy for the sustainable existence of public library in the country. If you see the Western country, you could see the lot of acts, legislations are enacted for the survival or the sustainable of public libraries in the world. Similarly, when you take it, the legal framework for the public libraries in India, we have to thank Dr. S.R. Ranganathan, who hailed from Tamil Nadu, originated the movement in India in the early 20th century. He realized the importance of legislations for the public libraries in the country. He dropped a model bill, Model Public Library Act in the year 1948. Subsequently, it was enacted in the Madras Legislative Assembly in the year 1948 as a bill, as an act. 1950 it was amended. That was the milestone in the public library movement in the nations. In line with the Tamil Nadu Public Library Act, many states, including Kerala, Andhra, all southern states, but the pragmatic situation is that only among the 38 states, 28 states and 9 union territories, only 19 states are enacted public library acts. That is the situation in the country. The public library, as you know, internet, Google, social media, nowadays AI, predominantly used by users. The public libraries are a center for providing accurate, timely and inclusive services to the all walks of the life. As you know that, as Mani also rightly pointed out about that misinformation, disinformations. So the social media predominantly propagating with the misinformation and disinformations. And people are believe that artificial intelligence provides accurate and immediate descriptive answer to your queries, but it is not a fact that. So whatever there in the electronic format, there is no point of that. The question of how you extend that the information in which available in the electronic format that are available in the internet is fact or is a correct one. So, in these situations, the public library is a place where you can find providing services to all kinds of people, irrespective of categories, without any discrimination of age, gender, creed, caste. So, the place where you can get information, that too equitable and inclusive information, is the public libraries. That's why the Indian Library Congress taken a step towards library public sphere to be used appropriately to transform the society very effectively as a learned society. For that, the public library is a catalyst for social transformations. However, you could see that digital device. So, information haves and have-nots. So, how that information haves and have-nots, the gap between the haves and have-not to be narrowed down, that is the only place where you could see that public libraries. So if you see that public library as the catalyst, I said that for the social transformations, UNESCO has pronounced the manifesto in the year 1994. Subsequently, it was revised in the year 2022. Mainly, they were focused about the three things. There are visions, policies, governance, fundings, and partnerships. So when you come to visions, the early days of visions would be improving the reading habits. Probably one of the early objectives of public libraries is to provide lifelong educations and promoting reading habit among the publics, because as you know, we were earlier in the early or mid of the 20th centuries, the literacy rate is below 50%. Due to the use of libraries and education, as our chair rightly pointed out, the steps taken by the government, other revolutionary movements, leaders, there were a number of libraries to be established all parts of the Tamil Nadu, southern part of the states, the southern part of the country. That's why the southern states are leading in the literacy rate, and Kerala is one of the 100% literacy rate, as well as the Tamil Nadu also. One of the fantastic point that Kerala is 100% digital literacy. That because of the understand or realize the importance of the libraries in the states. As far as the advocacy part and the governing part, I would like to take the case of Tamil Nadu public library systems. The Tamil Nadu public library system, as forerunner for it is based on the Tamil Nadu Public Library Act in the year 1948. The Directorate of Public Library is established in the state in the year 1974. So it has a structured systems, whereby if you have a structured system only, then you can be able to give a good governance. So it gives the democratization, as our Mr. Sashi Kumar clearly pointed out. Public library should be democratized. So as far as the public library systems, we have a state central library. Tanimara Public Library is a state central library. Of course, we have the Anna Central Library. In Madurai, we have Kalankar Memorial Library. As our chair mentioned about, there are 2 libraries coming up in the land. My point is, it is not enough for that. If you want to take forward the literacy and the Tamil Nadu or the country as a knowledge hub, we have 12,500 Grama Panchayats and 15 metropolitan cities, at least with 15 this kind of a model library to be established to cater the information needs of the country. As Anna Central Library is now catering the information needs of the Chennai and the suburb districts. Madurai will cater the Madurai and southern districts. Of course, the Periyar Arivu Nolagam will be established in the Coimbatore, will cater the western part of the country, and central part, Trichy library will take care of that. However, it is a need of our that we have to be, the government should be established at least one library, this kind of a library in the metropolitan cities. As I said that there are 15 metropolitan cities in the country, in the states. If you take that other units functioning in the public library systems, we have 1915 village libraries. So in Tamil Nadu itself, we have 12,500 Grama Panchayats. At least next coming couple of years, this village libraries to be doubled. At least we should have 4,000 libraries. As we had a morning, there are about 9,000 public libraries are functioning in Kerala itself. So at least in Tamil Nadu, that is one of the advocacy from this panel that public libraries which are functioning, the branch libraries or part-time libraries, all part-time libraries to be converted into the full-time branch libraries, and 15 metropolitan cities like Anna Central Library like that we have to be established. Another aspect of the growth of public library system in Tamil Nadu that we have in the 90s itself, there is the expectation that all the public libraries should function with their own building with adequate infrastructures. But unfortunately, there is lacking in the having the infrastructure in library. Of course, we have the collections. There is a collections towards the meeting out the information needs of the local people. There is a lacking of adequate infrastructures like ICT applications and other infrastructures. So what we have to do is, so that infrastructure of the public library to be strengthened, then only it will cater the information needs of the local public. One of the good thing I could see that 2 years back, Tamil Nadu government has established a high-level committee, 8-member high-level committee under the leadership of Dr. M. Rajendran, former Vice Chancellor of Tamil University, to revision the Tamil Nadu Public Library Act. So the committee has analyzed the existing act and how it should be revised according to the technological influenced societies. So what they expect that, as we know that public library functioning in the states based on the library cess. So 10 paise of a rupee collected as property tax from the property proceedings goes to public library management and functionaries. So that is a fluctuating, you can see every year there may be collection of taxes may be increase or decrease that. They realize that important there should be a funding source, a standard funding source for the public library. So they advocate that there would be a revenue for the public library system apart from the library cess collected from the property tax from the local governments. Another important aspect I have taken up is about streamlining the service condition of the employee. So that is one of the pathetic situations. If you take the social image of the librarians, when you compare to other professionals, it is far lower than the other professionals. So that if you increase the service conditions, the financial stability of the library personnel, then only they will increase the social image that will indirectly motivate them to serve the public effectively. So we urge the government, they are working as the administrative staff, the ministerial staff of the government, their salaries, the working conditions and the other benefits to be improved, then only they can be able to provide or they will be able to work in the conditions where you can be able to expect. The another aspect of the high-level committee is the preservation, conservation of the rare books and the manuscripts. That was the one of the important that as we are talking about nowadays about the indigenous knowledge systems. How we extend the local library is responsible for protecting that indigenous knowledge of the people, those who are in a particular locality. And also we have a rich heritage collections and old and rare manuscripts in the indigenous knowledge like Siddha, medicines and the literature and other astrological and astronomical area, where these documents to be preserved and conserved by using appropriate technologies. Another aspect, one of the drawbacks people are usually seeing in the public libraries, they predominantly housed with only the books. But as you know that nowadays we have, due to the advances in the ICT, we have e-book, e-magazine and so on. So there should be a provision in the Act or the local library authority should take necessary steps to subscribe the e-journals, e-books and e-resources so that people will get benefit out of that using it. Because of people are having the habitual of using e-resources nowadays rather than the printed books. Though there are a segment of people are very fond of using printed books, but the fact that majority are looking for electronic resources, as you know that because of it has some advantages. What we have to do that, as I mentioned about that the image, social image. The social image, how we have to show among the people, visual your people in the people. So we have to create a awareness or sensitization to the community-based programs. So the community participation is important for the people's movement. So if you want to take the public library as a people movement, or if you want to make a truthful or fruitful attainment of the for which it is established with the help of the community. Of course, if you take a public library system, Tamil Nadu, we have a patron system, reader circles. Like that, there are many programs are there. But unless you have the community engagement with the public library, we cannot be able to flourish in the societies. So it is very important that the librarians working in the branch library or public library should have a rapport with the local public, make them to use the library effectively. For that, they make use of that philanthropists, other book lovers or the writers, users to the scheme line. Then only we can be able to flourish in the societies. Similarly, the professional association like Indian Library Congress or there are many national and state library associations are there to also take some steps to propagating or creating awareness or to take the movement of the libraries among the peoples. But as aware of that, there are many challenges when you talk about that, how we take forward among the societies. One is inadequate funding. Inadequate funding, that is what we need a support of government, the government agencies or the private public partnerships. There are many examples are there about that private libraries are doing well. For example, in Tamil Nadu, Chennai, we have Roja Mudaya Research Library. One of the libraries cater the information needs of the all Tamil lovers, Tamil related collections are there. So it is run by the private trust. So similarly, Pennington Public Library in Stephen Libator, like that, there are individuals are having that library for the benefit of the locals. So the government itself cannot be able to do certain things. So if you want to have a community participations, the public participations, it could be explore the possibility of running the library with the public and private partnerships. So for example, those who are interested into having a books, services and other things, why don't the government is collaborate with them that by providing adequate supports for establishing such kind of a libraries. Of course, not only the individual, there may be some institutions are also willing to work with the government to not only that for the purpose of the local needs, but also in a large extent. Another important thing is the library personnel, those who are working in the libraries, particularly public libraries. There are many public librarians and as well as the students are there that they are having some lack of leadership. For example, so they are doing some routine or works, but they have to be very proactive in the sense that one side we have a financial crunch, another side that we have to cater the different or diverse needs of the information users. How the librarian going to cope up with that by exploring additional or alternative possibilities. That's what I have mentioned about public partnership as well as the community partnerships. Another important thing, why don't you explore the possibilities of the CSR, corporate social responsibilities. So that is important, that is one of the main factors that all corporates should spare some amount for under the banner of corporate social responsibilities. So the library personnel try to approach the corporates in the particular locality, then explore the funding of support to the public library under the CSR, corporate social responsibility. So that is important. Another important I would like to emphasize that the public library, social status and the financial status of the public library should be revised, to be recognized and realize the importance. The government necessarily revise their pay structures and qualifications requirement and providing adequate awards or motivational rewards something so that they can able to work in a better way. So, as I said that at the beginning, the prologue, that sustainability is very, very important. That we have to take forward the library not only is a learning space or it is a social space. So there you people come to sit, work together and socializing. So apart from the learning space, apart from the social space, the public libraries can be act as a maker space where people come together, sit and discuss, deliberate and come out with a new idea. That is what we can call it as a so-called innovation and other things. So the public library is a public sphere where you have all sort of a democratic actions to be catalyzed here. By not only that, but also the public library should act as a community information centers by providing community-related services for them to do the day-to-day activities of the life. And also, if they want to take part of the socio-political activities, they need information for decision-making. So the public library is a right place to give, because the other media, social media and other things, providing misinformation, disinformation. So the public library is an ideal place where you can able to work together and that will lead to the knowledge society. So that is the need of our for the country. So thank you so much for giving the opportunity to stand.
Has given a lot of tips to us how to promote the learning habit among the people, how to make betterment of life to provided by the governments the staff and employees of the like working as libraries, and also to encourage the lending private libraries across the state, because they are also part of the business having in library movement. They are not recognized by, as a late, they are not recognized by, they are privately, some people are doing without any profitable, non-profitable basis. They are doing the lending libraries. Some people are doing lending libraries. Therefore, these are how to be patronized by the governments, state or central government. And also he has pointed out the library movement, who is the father of the library movement, Sri S.R. Raghunathan, has born in the state, in Sirgali. He has promoted the library science across the state. He is the part of the creation of the library amendments, Library Act in the state and the central. Therefore, we are honoring him. And also he has pointed out the CSR funds to be utilized for the development of libraries is acceptable one. And also library, in property tax, library development fund also collected by the governments. These all should be properly utilized for the development of the library purpose. He has pointed out all the aspects to promote the library, to promote among the people the reading habits, and simultaneously to Mr. Sashi Kumar also has been detailedly demonstrated the federalism between the state and central. Therefore, both evidence has been very properly displayed the role in the both subject. Thank you to them. Thank you. You can ask them.
Very nice talk, both Shivakumar sir as well as Chandrakumar. My question is, see, one side we are talking about building more public libraries, but on the other side we also hear news like the old age British Council Library, which was there in Chennai. It was a very famous place for the readers to go. The physical format of the library is closing down, and they are going to stick on to only the digital mode of the library. This, I think, Shivakumar sir also highlighted that for the digital natives, how they are transitioning from the physical mode of books to the digital modes. And there are digital immigrants like us from the baby boomers generation who still want to see the physical format of the book. So how do you think that we are going to mitigate this challenge? Or is there a way? Because the younger generation, the Gen Z, is more happy to have the digital format. They like interactive learning. So, your comments on that?
I think that's a very important point. I think Dr. Chandrakumar, towards the end of his talk, spoke about the new ethos or the new role of the library, which is not just a place where you go and refer and read, where you also discuss. It becomes a point. That's really the function of a public sphere. A public library is part of a public sphere. So for instance, this is a good example of a library. We are discussing the role of a library in a big library building. The major part of the library is where you can refer to books, gain knowledge. But you want to interact with that knowledge, you want to know different points of view, you want to clear doubts, you want to elaborate on certain aspects of it, and from that, an action-making agenda can take place, either in terms of policy formulation recommendations to the government or those in power, or in terms of what we should be watching out against, particularly in our context. Because there are books and books and books. The problem with the digital, as I said, which is why Sweden is going back to reading after trying digital. You don't know why you're reading something. There's no context for it sometimes, because it's a context-free. Digital is a context-free world. So you will get to know a little of cricket, a little of music, a little of this, a little of that, and your attention span is so low that you get bits and pieces. It's a kind of what you call a pixelated world. It's described as pixels. It's bytes and bits and bytes and pixels. Today in television they say, give me a sound bite. People come and that itself indicates they don't want long talk. They want you to talk in 20 seconds, because beyond that there is no scope for that. What logic, what cogency, what argument, what depth of knowledge can you communicate in 20 seconds? So but that is unfortunately the speed of digital. The digital lives in a very frenetic speed, in the haste of digital. So which is why we need repositories of knowledge where we have time to reflect and think and talk and discuss and agitate and debate and elaborate on issues. Which is why libraries become, I think this is an excellent model for a library building. You cannot replicate it everywhere because this needs huge funds. But as Dr. Chandrakumar again said, each panchayat should have a small building where local people are getting together and saying this policy has been initiated. Let us discuss it. This is what they are saying, this is what B is saying, this is what C is saying. This is how democracy flourishes. And this will also be a way whereby we are not just passive recipients of knowledge. We are also, see, the advantage of the digital is you can also be a producer of information. You can be a producer of knowledge, isn't it? You are able to put your opinions out there. In the earlier world, you did not have. If you wanted to express your opinion, there are entry barriers. Only the privileged could express their opinions. We are living in a society in India, as you know, for centuries, only certain people could read. Only certain people could write. It was all orally communication. Only the privileged, some castes alone could read and write, whether in Sanskrit or Pali and so on. From that, when the Industrial Revolution came and the writing revolution took place, all that changed. But now the thing is how to use digital technology whereby we can express ourselves. Today, in fact, digital technology, we say we are not just consumers, we are also producers. So the new term is prosumer. You are both producing information and consuming information. You are producing knowledge and consuming knowledge. The other thing I want to alert, it's like a red flag, I think we should be very alert to is, we are also living with a government at the center which is vitiating the ecology of knowledge, which is determining what the textbooks will say, which is determining what textbooks will not say, which is othering communities through textbooks, through what you will read. So in such a dangerous situation, libraries and roles of librarians to become more inclusive. An ideal librarian, I'm sure, like Dr. Chandrakumar, will know every book in this library. In my school, I remember, there was a lady library. She knew every book. She knew what the book contained. Not just she knew in an essence. She may not have read it cover to cover. So librarians become guides to where can you find a counter argument? Where can I find another view? That is democracy. Democracy is not about all of us saying yes, yes to somebody. Not all of us saying Vishwaguru is great. Democracy is about saying, is Vishwa right? Is Guru right? Is a combination right? You must be able to question anything and everything. For that, you must know where to find what this means, what that means. So libraries are a place where you can find that. And thirdly, and most importantly, as we move into the virtual more and more, because we are all receiving information on the smartphone, we are not meeting any. If you notice, our children are not mingling with each other, except in school. School, luckily, is still there physically. Otherwise, everything is through the mobile phone. You're on Facebook, you're texting, you're on WhatsApp. I'm talking to my family on WhatsApp. We are not meeting, and you don't even find the need to meet because you already had FaceTime and so and FaceTime. Libraries become a space like this where we're able to interact, we're able to see each other's face, we're able to understand the body language, we're able to understand what somebody thinks and feels, what the personality of a person you're speaking to. We are all tangible, we are material, not invisibilized, virtual creatures. So I think libraries tremendous importance. It's got an organic importance in society. That's my feeling.
So I think knowledge. Sir, if I can just add, maybe they should move from knowledge repository to knowledge creation, knowledge co-creation, and an innovation hub kind of, exchange of ideas. It should move perhaps to that. And I totally agree that another point that you said is that the attitude of the librarian is again of enormous importance. It is not just if they are knowledgeable, but they should be willing to share the knowledge. So that is where the attitude of the librarians comes in. And that is where library science has a very important role in creating that kind of positive attitude among the custodians of the library.
Absolutely. I think librarian, in fact, is a super professor in some ways. He's a jack of all arts, not a master of none, but he's a jack of all arts. He knows a little about physics, a little about chemistry, a little about science, a little about philosophy.
Jack of all trades and master of at least one.
Maybe, but it doesn't matter if he's a master, because that's why he's a librarian. He knows a bit of it, he or she. He knows a bit about everything. So that's what's wonderful. Can we solve the problem of literacy rate in Tamil Nadu through the library movement? I think literacy rate of Tamil Nadu is, Kerala is a small state, to be fair. Kerala is a small state of 3 crore people. And to have a total literacy mission in Kerala, it's a great accomplishment. Where Tamil Nadu is, several times the size of Kerala. So to create a total literacy state in Tamil Nadu, and given the long road, history of feudalism and so on, all of which were largely exposed in Tamil Nadu, exploded in Tamil Nadu because of the Dravidian movement, because of Periyar, and because of the NK movement, and the Dravidian movement broadly. And so that has made a huge difference. In Tamil Nadu, you look at the posters of leaders. I'm not seeing, it struck me if you go across India, political leaders, you will see them, just standing and smiling. Tamil Nadu, there are a pen, and there are book. It is iconic, it's indicative of what you are prioritizing. You are prioritizing knowledge, the need to learn, the need to understand. Particularly leaders of the Dravidian movement. Now, whether it's DMK, you'll find they're all, either thinking with a pen, or writing with a pen, or reading with a book. These are symbolisms of what is important. And therefore, as Dr. Chandrakumar said, I'm sure the government will hear him, and I'm sure our Honorable MP will communicate this. We must have more and more local libraries, which become points of convening, of meeting, of discussing. And that kind of agitation, that kind of discussion will make the Tamil Nadu result. I think Tamil Nadu literacy and understanding are two different things. I think every Tamil is politically very mature. You don't have to know to read and write, know who, what you want, who you will vote for, why you will vote for somebody. And that's a separate kind of knowledge. It's a commonsensical knowledge. And India's democracy has been upheld by the common knowledge of the common man. When one Prime Minister before this said, India shining, India shining, India shining, the people didn't believe it. It's the farmers, the poor people. Far greater illiteracy in north of India than in South India. But they voted them out of power because they know, they have a sense of the right and the wrong. They have a sense of what is reasonable and unreasonable. They know when somebody is taking them for the right. But I'm sure in China, so in Tamil Nadu, attaining total literacy certainly is a shall we say, aspiration. It's aspirational, but that it's not just a question of numbers. See, after all, definition of literacy is if you can read the sign of a book or the headlines in a paper or the bus, where the bus is going. There were some yardsticks for literacy. That's not enough. If I can. And look at the number of literate people here who are not using their literacy. Which is as a wasted literacy. Or reading only gibberish, or only reading what is going on in mobile phones and WhatsApp and bits and songs. So literacy also one should have a context to it. So that's my response to the first question. How can we, I'm sure Chandrakumar will also have views on this, how can we address the serious threat to federal system through life? Yes, this is exactly what I said. It is when you conscientize and sensitize the average, the last grassroots person, at the grassroots level, nobody can shake that person. No Vishwaguru Hudam will work there, because they know that this is nonsense. And I think, I have no doubt that this is the last bastion. We are sitting in a state which is the last bastion against the rollering of all common sense, of all culture, of all individualism, of all federalism, of all devolution. And therefore, the library movement is not a neutral place where books are kept and people come and read, and they use that knowledge. They use the knowledge to think about what somebody is doing to their lives, what somebody is doing to their culture, to their politics, to their hard-earned, to their hard-fought-for freedoms. That is what a library will be at the end of the day.
Excuse me, sir. For making more innovations, we need to bring certain anecdotes from the past history. Because Mr. Girirajan MP told in the morning that it is a role of padipalums. It is not books at all, but only these magazines strewn all over these carpets. That is a pie மேலே இருக்கும். அதை படிக்கிறது ஒவ்வொருத்தரை படிச்சுட்டு இருப்பாங்க. அது படிக்கும்போது வந்து மார்னிங் டு ஈவினிங் people were engaged. Those things now we have to enlighten with this just like some brochures like that, so that the innovation, for making innovations, the past history is a must. Because I don't know about whether that mala is available or not, I don't know. As a paper, but I could not get that. But yes, in Tamil Nadu, other states I don't know. First librarian is the first person, sir, please put your signature. Still, I find in all the places, the only designated people, they invite you with a sort of a smile. Please enroll your name there. A pencil will be there, tied up to the nearby the desk. So it is we got a popularity. Just when I joined Mumbai in '79, D'Souza Library, Times of India librarian invited me. You are coming from the state of S.R. Ranganathan. I was really proud of saying this. I remember well, because Tamil Nadu is having in each and every district libraries, Nulaga Anaikulu is there. The democratization has been from the beginning, since the beginning, since Congress period also. Mr. Kamaraj was there, and then so many libraries, private libraries were annexed, were taken over by this library movement. Thank you very much.
படிப்பகங்கள் வந்து ஒரு காலத்தில் வந்து இருந்துச்சு. ஏன்னா அப்போ வந்து நிறைய வந்து ஸ்லம் பேக்கேஜஸ்லாம் வந்து படிக்க மாட்டாங்க, பிள்ளைகள் வந்து படிக்க மாட்டாங்க, வேலைக்கு போயிடுவாங்க. மாலை நேரங்களில் அவங்களை கூப்பிட்டு வந்து கிளாஸ் எடுக்கிறது, அவங்கள 8th கிளாஸ் படிக்க வைக்கிறது, அப்போ டைரக்ட் எக்ஸாமினேஷன், அப்புறம் 10th படிக்கலாம், 10th டைரக்ட் எக்ஸாம் இருந்துச்சு. அதற்கு பிறகு கலைஞர் அவர்கள் வந்து திருவள்ளுவர் படிப்பாங்க, ஐயன் திருவள்ளுவர் படிப்பாங்க. எல்லா தமிழ்நாடு முழுக்க வந்து பிள்ளைகள் வந்து படிப்பு உருவாக்குறாங்க. இப்போ எல்லா லைப்ரரிஸ்லையுமே கிடைக்குது, எல்லா மேகசைன்ஸும் கிடைக்குது. அதே மாதிரி இன்னொன்று சொன்னீங்க நீங்க, அதாவது என்ன சொல்ல வந்தீங்களே, ஏதோ சொல்லுவோம் பழைய பாஸ்ட் ஹிஸ்டரி. ஓகே. பட் உங்களோட கருத்துக்கு வந்து உண்மையிலேயே அதன் மூலமாக நிறைய பேர் படிச்சு நிறைய கல்வியாளர்களாக வந்துட்டாங்க, அது வந்து வளர்ந்துட்டாங்க. ஓகே, யூ வாண்ட் டு சே anything?
Sir, yeah, some questions, same points have come across. I just want to mention about Professor S.R. Ranganathan. You see, it's very significant that he started the idea of library science in this country. It's the father of library science. Dr. Chandrakumar said 1948, first legislation happens in Tamil Nadu. That's the very first one, and other states follow. And it's not coincidence that this happens because Dr. S.R. Ranganathan was a mathematician who became a librarian. And so the library coding systems and a lot of things were his inventions. So his contribution is something that actually we should celebrate on his birth. I think they should create a Dr. Ranganathan Day in the realm of library science in Tamil Nadu.
நூலக ஆணைக்குழு சொன்னீங்க. இப்போ அந்த நூலக ஆணைக்குழு வந்து மாவட்டங்கள் லெவலில் இயங்குது. நம்ம ஸ்டேட்டை பொறுத்தவரை மாவட்ட நூலக ஆணைக்குழு, மாநில நூலக ஆணைக்குழு, இவங்க கிட்ட வந்து புதுசாக ஒரு நியூ ரைட்டர்ஸ் யாராவது வராங்கன்னு வச்சுங்களேன், அவங்கள்ட்ட அந்த புக்ஸை கொடுத்தாங்கன்னா வந்து அந்த புக்ஸை படிச்சுட்டு எல்லா லைப்ரரியும் ரெக்கமெண்ட் பண்ணி அவங்க கிட்ட பல்காக பர்ச்சேஸ் பண்ணி அந்த ரைட்டருக்கு வந்து ஒரு உற்சாகப்படுத்துறதுக்கு அவங்க வந்து ஒரு ஊக்கத்தொகை கொடுக்குறாங்க. அதே மாதிரி நம்ம ஸ்டேட்ல வந்து நம்மளோட சீஃப் மினிஸ்டர் வந்து அதுக்கு முன்னெல்லாம் ஒரு லீடர்ஸ் போய் ஒரு கேடர்ஸ் போய் லீடர்ஸை பார்க்கறதா மாலை போடணும் துண்டு போடணும்லாம் மாறி போயிட்டு இப்போ புத்தகங்கள் கொடுக்குற ஒரு வழக்கத்தை கொண்டு வந்துட்டாங்க. நம்மளோட சீஃப் மினிஸ்டர் எம்.கே. ஸ்டாலின் அவர்கள் நீங்க அவரை பார்க்குற நேரத்துல தான் வந்து நீங்க சால்வை மாலையெல்லாம் கொடுக்க வேண்டியதில்லை. ஒரு 5 ரூபாய் புத்தகத்தை கொடுத்தா கூட ஒரு 5 கூட வாங்கி அந்த புத்தகங்களை வந்து வருஷத்துக்கு கிட்டத்தட்ட ஒரு 2 லட்சம் 3 லட்சம் புத்தகங்களை வந்து பிரித்து ஒரு பள்ளிக்கூடத்திற்கும் ஒரு லைப்ரரிக்கும் அவர் இப்போ அனுப்பிச்சிட்டு வர. இது ஒரு நல்ல சிஸ்டம். சார் சொன்ன மாதிரி யூ கேன் சி த திராவிடன் மாடல் லீடர்ஸ் கீப்பிங் பேன் ரீடிங் புக்ஸ். அதே போல தமிழ்நாடுனா புத்தகங்களுக்கு அறிவுக்கும் முக்கியத்துவத்தை கொடுக்குற மாநிலம். தொடர்ந்து வரக்கூடிய தலைவர்களுக்கு திராவிட மூவ்மெண்ட்ல வரக்கூடிய தலைவர்கள் யாராக இருந்தாலும் கல்விக்கும் எழுத்தறிவுக்கும் முக்கியத்துவத்தை கொடுத்து அறிவு மூலமாக வளர்ந்த இயக்கம் தான் திராவிட இயக்கங்கள். அந்த அறிவு வளர்ப்பதற்கு ஒரு காரணமாக இருப்பது கல்வி அறிவு மூலம் பெறப்படுகின்ற லைப்ரரியின் மூலம் பெறப்படுகிற அறிவு என்பதற்கு நம்ம வந்து அடித்தளத்தை நல்லா வச்சுட்டு இருக்கோம். உங்களோட சஜஷன்ஸை நீங்க கொடுக்குற இன்புட்ஸை டெஃபினட்டா நான் வந்து அரசாங்கத்தோட கவனத்துக்கு நிச்சயமா தகுந்த நேரங்களில் கொண்டு செல்லப்படும் என்பதை இந்த நேரத்தில் தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறேன்.
One question. In the national scenario, democracy is decaying and fear rules the nation. In that context, how can we maintain the public domain or public sphere? How far is it possible?
In Tamil Nadu, we are very lucky. We have the public sphere, we are able to speak. Believe me, you cannot have a discussion like this in many parts of India today. I'm not joking. Because you cannot criticize certain people. I mean, if you draw a cartoon, you are pulled up. Not just pulled up, UAPA, NIA, everybody comes after you, ED. So, it's a ridiculous situation, you're right. There is a fear psychosis that is there in the nation. And the only way to fight fear is more light, shed more knowledge, counter that. You have to resist that, you have to speak about that. And I'm all admiration for what the Chief Minister of this state does. Whenever there is some such injustice, he calls it out. He says it out in the open, in open press conference. There are other states, Kerala for instance, where there is communist government. You can see the difference. And you can see it's an opposition ruled states that there is an element of criticism and discussion and debate. So this is the danger of a road rollering kind of uniformity. India is unity in diversity, not unity and uniformity. That is the essence of our democracy. Unity and uniformity are opposite concepts. And increasingly we are being told to be uniform. We are being told to just do this, do this, do this. And the other problem with current day knowledge is, and the press also, the media, I am a media person. There was a time when we would report faithfully. We would say, he said, she said, he said, he said. We have reached a stage where there is so much of misinformation and disinformation coming from the highest quarters, particularly from the central government and so on, that you cannot anymore say he said, she said. You have to verify what he said. He said this in brackets, you say, but it is not true. It is not true. BBC today says, it's happening across the world. BBC says, this is BBC News verified. Why should you say verified? Because your news is supposed to be verified. Because that is the way the world is. Because there is a gentleman called Trump who is also behaving similarly there. So we are in very troubled times, which is why the role of spaces which create, sustain, nourish, and hold the value of knowledge high become that much more precious. And so the library movement, libraries are where you cannot, you see, in the earlier days, that famous libraries in the Middle East were burned because the invader did not like the information which was there. But you try to wipe out the memory of a civilization by destroying its libraries. This has happened. But that is not possible anymore because it is transformed into digital forms, in different forms. You can suppress somebody here in a book, you can ban books. There is a general who has written a book, he is not able to publish it in this country. What a pathetic situation. And if somebody cites it in the parliament, it is struck off the records. So we are living in an age of undeclared censorship, that is true. And libraries and books are not about censorship, it's about flouting censorship. It's about understanding, knowing what somebody does not want you to know because it is not in the interest of that somebody that we have that knowledge. That's the pure fact. So it's not easy. It's not an easy chair proposition. We have to lean forward and lend our minds to the cause of gaining knowledge, which is important, which has a transformative quality on our lives, which is important for democracy, which is important to keep our constitution, the spirit of our constitution alive.
Excuse me, sir. I am Dhananjayan, retired from Department of Atomic Energy, Kalpaka. I am one of the volunteers of Tamil Nadu Science Forum, which is functioning throughout the state. Let me allow me to speak in Tamil. தமிழ்நாடு அறிவியல் இயக்கம் என்ற ஒரு வாலண்டியர் ஆர்கனைசேஷன்ல சேர்ந்த பிறகுதான் கற்றல் கற்பித்தல் சம்பந்தப்பட்ட ஒரு விஷயம் எனக்கு ஒரு சமூக பிரச்சனையா தெரிஞ்சது. தமிழ்நாடு அறிவியல் இயக்கத்தை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் கேரளாவில் இருந்து தான் நிறைய விஷயங்களை நாங்கள் தெரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டோம். தமிழ்நாடு சயின்ஸ் ஃபாரம் இஸ் எ பேரலல் ஆர்கனைசேஷன், கேஎஸ்எஸ்பி கேரள சாஸ்திரிய சாகித்ய பரிஷத் லைக். ஓகே, அங்க அவங்க டோட்டல் லிட்ரஸி அப்படின்றத எர்ணாகுளத்தில் பண்ணும்போது அவங்க சொன்ன எக்ஸ்பீரியன்சஸ் எல்லாம் இதெல்லாம் நடக்குமா என்ற ஒரு பெரிய மலைப்பை உண்டாக்குச்சு. ஆனா இப்ப சார் சந்திரகுமார் சார் பேசுனது போல எப்போ ஒரு விஷயம் ஒரு இயக்கமாக மாற்றப்படுகிறதோ, எப்போ சமூகம் முழுக்க அதில் ஈடுபடுதோ, அப்போ பொருத்தமான பொறுப்புகள் கொடுக்கும்போது மனிதர்கள் விஸ்வரூபம் எடுக்கிறார்கள். அப்படியான விஸ்வரூபங்களை தமிழ்நாட்டில் அறிவொளி இயக்கத்தில் நாங்கள் பார்த்துருக்கோம், கேரளாவில் மட்டும் இல்லை. இப்போ நான் ஃபைனலாக கேட்க போகிறது என்னன்னா, கிரிராஜன் சார் அங்கே இருக்காரு, அதனால எங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப வசதியாக போச்சு. என்னன்னா, நான் இங்கே வரும்போது எல்லாரும் படிக்கணும்னு கத்திட்டு இருந்த காலம் போய் எல்லா குழந்தைகளையும் பள்ளிக்கூடத்தில் சேர்த்தோம். அனைவரும் கற்க வேண்டும் அப்படின்றது, அனைத்து குழந்தைகளும் பள்ளிக்கூடத்தில் சேர்க்கணுன்றது, அப்புறம் கற்பது கற்கண்டியன்னு சொன்னது, அப்புறம் சமச்சீர் கல்வி அப்படின்னு கொண்டு வந்தது. இப்படியெல்லாம் கொண்டு வந்ததுக்கு அப்புறம் காலையில இறையன்பு சார் சொன்னது போல என்னாச்சுன்னு சொன்னா, இப்ப பிள்ளைங்க ஈவன் காலேஜ் படிக்கிற பிள்ளைகள் உட்பட, ஈவன் ரிசர்ச் ஸ்காலர்ஸ் உட்பட புக்ஸை படிக்கிறதே கிடையாது. பாயிண்ட்ஸ் மட்டும் எடுத்துக்கிறாங்க, சப்மிட் பண்றாங்க, டிகிரி வாங்குறாங்க, போயிடுறாங்கன்ற மாதிரி இருக்கும் பொழுது எப்படிடா இந்த லைப்ரரியை திருப்பி உயிர் கொடுக்கிறது அப்படின்னு, லைப்ரரின்னு சொன்னா புத்தகம், 4 அறைகள், அதை படிக்கிறவங்க, அதை படிக்கிறது மூலமா அவர்களுக்கு வரக்கூடிய எழுச்சி, இப்படிதான் நினைச்சுட்டு வந்தோம். ஆனா இங்க வந்ததுக்கு அப்புறம் சந்திரகுமார் சார் இவர் எம்பி சார் எல்லாம் பேசும்போது இது ஒரு மாபெரும் இயக்கமா, ஒரு சமூக இயக்கமா, ஐயோ ஒரு கிராமத்தையே அப்படியே தன்னுடைய கைக்குள்ள கொண்டு வர முடியும் ஒரு லைப்ரரி இயக்கத்தினால. லைப்ரரி நாட் ஒன்லி கன்ஃபைன்ட் வித் 4 வால்ஸ் அந்த புக்ஸ் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி இருக்கு. எனவே நான் கிரிராஜன் சார் கிட்ட வைக்கிற இது என்னன்னு கேட்டா, இந்த செஷனுக்கு பிறகு தயவு செஞ்சு தமிழ்நாட்டில் எங்கெல்லாம் வாலண்டியர்ஸ் இருக்காங்களோ, எங்கெல்லாம் எடுத்துட்டு போன இருக்காங்களோ, அவங்களை கொஞ்சம் மோட்டிவேட் பண்ணி இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் ட்ரெயின் அப் பண்ணி கேரளாவை போல சில மாடல்ஸ் யாச்சும் நம்மளால உருவாக்க முடியுமா இந்த நூலக இயக்கத்தை கொண்டு போறதுக்கு என்பது மட்டும்தான் என்னோட நம்பிக்கை. அதற்கான முயற்சிகள் சொன்னீங்கன்னா நாங்கள் தயாரா இருக்கோம். நன்றி.
Please translate to English.
Okay.
Sir.
Yes, said something very important.
Sir, MP sir Kumar.
So regarding your how to reach the unreached, so Tamil Nadu government initiated a Friends of Libraries. So that is one of the prime child of the government of Tamil Nadu.
What he is asking, nowadays totally digitalized. How to get them back to study and what is it? That's why he is asking. What you are going to do to bring back them to read the books? If you have any movement for that, if any idea for the government, if anything is not there, you have to recommend for this. That's yes.
So that is what the Tamil Nadu government, we have Friends of Libraries. So there are about a lakh of volunteers responsible for bringing that library to the remote areas, like the hill area and where there is a library is not there. So they are responsible for bringing the libraries and the move on to the country. Like that, one will be able to reach that. So there are many steps taken to reach the unreached. So there is a question about what is the user-friendly model for the person with the special needs in the way of book or information libraries. The Anna Central Library is the best examples. So we have a sections called braille sections for the visually challenged people. This is what we are expecting in the, if you see the Kalaignar Library, Member Library, Madurai or Trichy, or there is a section for visually challenged people. Like that, that is what our motto of that Indian Library Congress is, to inclusiveness. So how we can able to bring the inclusiveness by after the information needs of all also visually challenged or mentally challenged people, or it may be women or the young or the old people. So there are steps, initiations by the government through various activities.
Sir, Karnataka.
சார் எப்படி சார் சொன்னீங்க, படிப்பகங்கள்லாம் வந்து கலைஞர் காலத்தில் திருவள்ளூர் படிப்பகங்கள் உருவாக்கப்பட்டது. அதே மாதிரி நானும் என் வீட்டுக்கு பக்கத்தில் தான் கலைஞர் படிப்பகம் 76 உருவாக்கப்பட்டது. கவர்மெண்ட் டிசைட் பண்ணதுக்கு முன்னாடி அங்கே தான் வந்து அன்னைக்கு முரசொலி, தீக்கதிர், எதிரொலி பேப்பர்னு ஒன்று வந்தது, அதெல்லாம் படித்தோம். பட் இன்னைக்கு வந்து என்னென்னா நகராட்சியில் இருக்கக்கூடிய படிப்பகங்கள் பூரா க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிட்டாங்க, திறக்கக்கூடாதுன்னு சொல்கிறாரு டிஎம்ஏ. நான் ஒரு வைஸ் சேர்மன் பழனியில் 7 வாசக சாலைகள் மூடப்பட்டிருக்கு. கொரோனா காலத்துக்கு முன்னாடி திறக்கல. டிஎம்ஏ டைரக்டர் ஆஃப் முனிசிபல் அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேஷன் செலவு செய்யாதீங்க, இதுக்கெல்லாம் எதுக்கு செலவு செய்யணும் அப்படிங்கிறாரு. நான் என் வாரில் இருக்கிற வாசக சாலைக்கு நான் என் சொந்த செலவில் நாளிதழ் போடுறேன். பட் மற்ற வாசக சாலைகள் கலைஞர் படிப்பகம், அண்ணா, ஜீவா இப்படியான தலைவர்கள் பேரில் உருவாக்கப்பட்ட வாசக சாலை 40 வருடங்களுக்கு உருவாக்கப்பட்டு பூட்டி கிடக்கு. டைரக்டர் ஆஃப் முனிசிபல் அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேஷன் நோ சாங்ஷன், உங்கள் ஜென்ரல் ஃபண்டில் நியூஸ் பேப்பர் வாங்கி போடாதீங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறாரு. முதல்வர் வந்து எல்லா பக்கம் நூலகங்களை திறந்து நல்ல நாலு இதை கொண்டு வர்றார். பட் அவரே டைரக்டர் ஆஃப் முனிசிபல் அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேஷன் பல பெட்டிஷன்ஸ் கொடுத்துட்டேன். பட் இன்னைக்கு வரைக்கும் திறக்கிறதுக்கு நோ பர்மிஷன், முனிசிபாலிட்டியில் ஓகே பண்ணுறாரு. பட் ஆனால் அவர் வந்து டைரக்டர் ஆஃப் முனிசிபல் அட்மினிஸ்ட்ரேஷன் ஐஏஎஸ் ஆஃபீஸர்ஸ் நோ பர்மிஷன். இதை நீங்கள் தயவு செஞ்சு கவர்மெண்ட்டை கொண்டு போய் நான் வாசக படிப்பகங்களை திறக்க சொல்லுங்க. எம்பி எம்எல்ஏ ஃபண்டில் கட்டின வாசக சாலைகள் பூட்டி கிடக்கிறது வருத்தமாக நிற்குது. நீங்கள் தான் அதுக்கு முயற்சி எடுக்கணும்.
நிச்சயமா நிச்சயமா நிச்சயமா.
என் பேர் சாந்தகுமாரி சார், நான் கர்நாடகாவிலேருந்து வந்திருக்கேன். ஸோ இந்தியாவில் கேரளாவில் ஹையஸ்ட் எஜுகேஷன் இருக்கிறதுனால தான் நீங்கள் வந்து முடிச்சேர்த்து இந்தியாவில் வந்து வேலை பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கிறதுக்கு ரொம்ப நன்றி சார். இப்போ கர்நாடகாவில் லாஸ்ட் இயர் நாங்கள் ஒரு கான்ஃபரன்ஸ் கூட பண்ணோம். லிசிட் பண்ணப்போ அவங்க நல்லா ரெஸ்பான்ஸ் வந்தது. அங்கே ஒரு ப்ராப்ளம் கூட இருக்குது சார். லைப்ரரி ஏன் மெயின்டைன் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க, அவங்க கூட அவங்க ப்ராப்ளம் எல்லாம் பேசினாங்க. அது ஒன்றே இல்லை, நான் ஆந்திராவிலலாம் கொஞ்சம் நான் ஜெர்னலிஸ்ட் யூனியனில் ஆல் இண்டியா ஜாயின்ட் செக்ரட்டரி இருந்ததுனால வேறு ஸ்டேட்டுக்கு போனப்பெல்லாம் நான் ஆந்திராவில் பார்க்குறேன். அங்கே ஒரு லைப்ரரி இருக்குது சார். அந்த லைப்ரரி பக்கத்துலேயே ஒரு சின்ன கேன்டீன், இந்த இந்திரா கேன்டீன், இப்போது இந்த அண்ணா கேன்டீனு கர்நாடகாவில் இந்திரா கேன்டீன் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. அது மாதிரி ஒரு கேன்டீன் இருக்குது சார். அங்கே படிக்கிற பசங்கள்லாம் பசியானா அங்கே போய் சாப்பிட்டுட்டு வந்து திரும்ப படிக்கிறாங்க. ஒரு அங்கே அந்த ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸ் இல்லைன்னா லைப்ரரி படிக்கிற பசங்க எங்கேயோ போகிறாங்களோ, எங்கேயும் சாப்பிட்டு அப்படியே போயிடுறாங்க. அது ஒரு ப்ராப்ளம் இருக்கிறதுனால நாங்கள் எங்கெங்க லைப்ரரி நம்ம ஆரம்பம் பண்ணுறோமோ அங்கங்கே ஒரு சின்ன சின்ன கேன்டீன் வந்து பண்ண நல்லதுன்னு சொல்லிட்டு அதுக்கு ஃபண்டிங் இப்போ நம்ம கர்நாடகாவில் வந்து டிபிஎஸ்சி பெங்களூர் மகாநகர பாலிகைன்னு இருக்குது. அதில் 5% செஸ் அமௌண்ட்டு எடுத்து வைக்கிறாங்க சார். பர் இயர் 800 crores வந்துருக்கு சார் பணம். ஆனால் அது லைப்ரரிக்கு அது செலவு பண்ண மாட்டேங்கிறாங்க. அந்த பணத்தை லைப்ரரிக்காகவே செலவு பண்ணணும்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஐஎன்சிலேருந்து ஒரு ஏதாவது நீங்கள் ஒரு முயற்சி எடுக்கணும் சார் ஆல் இண்டியா லெவலில். ஏன்னா எந்த ஃபண்டிங்கு கவர்மெண்ட்டு எடுத்து வைக்கிறோ லைப்ரரின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அந்த ஃபண்டிங் அதுக்காக செலவு பண்ணணும், வேற எதுக்குமே பண்ணக்கூடாதுன்னு சொல்லிட்டு இப்போ பிபிஎம்பியில் அந்த ஃபண்டிங் எல்லாம் எடுத்து வேற எதுக்கோ கான்ட்ராக்ட் எல்லாம் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க.
நீங்க அனுமதப்பா வந்திருக்காங்க
வந்திருக்காங்க சார்.
அனுமதப்பா சார் ரெப்ரசன்டேஷன் கொடுங்க, டெஃபினட்டா அவர் கவர்மெண்ட்டுக்கு
அவங்க கிட்ட
டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணுங்க. தேங்க்யூ
காலையில்
தேங்க்யூ 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 தேங்க்யூ.